Alright, let's evaluate a solo setup for the RSI Scorpius Antares with functional pilot controls for the EMP and quantum dampener. We will start by taking a look at the technical setup, then operating the Antares for player bounty hunting, pirating, and dueling meta fighters in the live persistent universe. Note that this is a proof of concept and will not be distributed. For this setup, I have my main Star Citizen window on my primary monitor, and a second virtual Star Citizen client with an alt account on my secondary monitor. I use a custom script to bind the Copilot EMP and QED controls to the comma and period keys on my keyboard, allowing me to operate these Copilot weapon groups while actively flying the ship. These auxiliary controls have a 100 millisecond activation time and a 100 millisecond release time. I will not be including the gameplay perspective of the second account, as it's just staring at the back console of the Antares Copilot, which is fairly uninteresting to watch. For the quantum drive, I chose the Atlas Grade A civilian quantum drive for long distance travel, mainly for chasing player bounties, and then military Grade A shield generator and power plants. The Antares has one more power plant than the normal Scorpius, giving it the pilot's capacitor 50% more shots over the normal Scorpius's pilot weapons, and then 16 Dominator 2 missiles, and then 2 laser repeaters on weapon group 0 and 2 distortion repeaters on weapon group 1 in a cross configuration. Alright, first up we're going to try doing some player bounty hunting with the solo Antares setup. We have one guy here, Zuck, in the Aegis Retaliator at Magda around Hurston. It looks like he's doing the illegal assassination missions with a friend here. So I've already pre-charged the Quantum Snare, and I'm pulling up trying to get the first burst on him to break his shields. It turns out he does have a Top Gunner with 2 size 3 laser repeaters, which puts up a bit more resistance than I was expecting from fighting someone in a Retaliator. Here, we're just going to push around him to get outside of the view of the turret. I am going to try and back strafe him, but the acceleration on this ship sucks pretty bad. So now that my shields have been eviscerated here, I'm just going to back out of the effective range of that turret and try and recuperate my shields. At this point here, you can see the distortion damage already starting to bite pretty deep. The turret gunner can no longer fire his weapon. The pilot can't quantum jump out. These guys can't combat log. Their ship is about to be turned off. At this point, there's nothing more they can do except just accept the L. Now that their ship has been disabled, they're just slowly falling back down to the surface of the moon here, because they never actually got the chance to leave the very shallow atmosphere of this moon. Now, unfortunately for me, I decided to bring 2 distortion repeaters, and at this point I am seriously regretting this decision. I should have just went with a full 4 laser repeaters. That would have really helped speed up this encounter, because this ship has a ridiculous amount of HP, and I'm going to be here for a minute with just 2 laser repeaters. Finally, after the sun has set on Magda and dumping 16 missiles and multiple bursts of my primary weapons here, I was finally able to get the hard death on their ship and apprehend Zuck here, completing this bounty. The Antares performed very well against a large ship and will perform very well against ships its size and larger, but will definitely struggle a lot more against some of the meta light fighters. Unfortunately, none of the player bounties I encountered were flying a meta fighter class ship, so we're going to head over to Brio's Breaker Yard and see if anyone there wants to throw down. I do get a fight with an Anvil Hurricane here. I am able to get some chip damage here with my primary weapons while charging up the EMP. We take a couple passes at each other. Each pass I was fortunate enough to win, although that Hurricane's turret should have destroyed my front shield on the first pass, and then popped me on the second pass. But I do apply some primary damage here to weaken his shield. And then on this pass right here, I do fire the EMP, which knocks off the shields of the Hurricane. It disables the weapons on the Hurricane, and I think they're also having engine problems, and they decide to just dip out real fast, 500 plus meters a second away from me. So I don't have the acceleration to chase, unfortunately, so I'm just going to let these guys go, and I never saw them again. For the second fight at Brio's Breaker Yard, I get a 1v2 against 2 aero pilots. These guys are playing together. I do have the EMP charged at this point, and I do hit the first guy from about 300 meters with the fully charged EMP. This knocks off his fully charged shields and disables his weapons, forcing him to disengage. Now, I do try and push forward, but the Antares seriously lacks acceleration. I do catch up a little bit, and I'm able to sprinkle him down here with some weapon damage, but it's not enough to soft death him or completely disable his ship here. I also need to be very careful because the second arrow is laying into my back shield while I'm focused on his friend here. On a subsequent pass here, I am able to continue spraying this Care Bear with the primary weapons, doing a bit of chip damage. I do hit him with the EMP after chip damage, causing more distortion, forcing him to back up. Now, two of the main weaknesses for the Antares is the lack of acceleration and the convergence issues at close distance, especially against these small single-seat ships. It makes it very difficult to actually apply damage on these ships when they're just twirling across your screen. So I do struggle to hit this guy quite a bit, even though shields are down. I wasn't able to capitalize on that opportunity. After not being able to take out one of the arrows, I decide to switch targets and try dueling the other guy. Ryan here is the more experienced pilot on that duo. He does work the Scorpius pretty hard, but the Scorpius does have the EMP, which is the primary defense against these small ships that are trying to get very close. See, as he breaks my front shield and tries to push in, I hit him with the EMP, forcing him to disengage. The EMP is, the main defensive and offensive tool on this ship, and it does work wonders. It's much more effective against these meta fighter class ships than I thought it would be, and it's the only tool that really keeps the Scorpius Antares in the fight against these smaller single-seat ships. After jousting around with these guys for a bit, the more experienced pilot does try and push a little bit too close, and they do end up colliding with the Scorpius. The Scorpius, with its wings extended, has a very large cross-section, a very large profile, which is disadvantageous when trying to avoid incoming fire, but it is very helpful when these small ships run right into you. It pretty much guarantees the collision kill every time. Now that the experienced pilot is out of the fight, I am able to focus once again on his teammate. I've gotten this guy's shield down once again, I do have the EMP charged, and I do hit him with the fully charged EMP while his shields are low. This disables the shields, his weapons, and causes some serious engine problems as he is not actually able to fly away from me this time. So I push in, still hard to hit him with the convergence issues, but I do catch him here and get the 1v2 elimination. The collision was a bit cheeky, but I did get a pretty fair fight on the second guy, and that's a GG. This ship actually performed way better than I thought against two light fighters. The third fight at Brios was a duel between a Hornet Ghost. I was able to compete with this guy. We weren't able to do any hull damage on each other, and this fight was going pretty well until his friend in a Cutlass Black showed up and started spamming EM missiles. The Antares has a very high EM signature when you have the EMP and the QED charged, so the EM missile spam is very difficult to deal with in this ship. It pretty much forces you to disengage. Finally, we're going to use the Antares for some pirating. We're just outside the perimeter of Devlin Scrap and Salvage on Euterpe around Microtech. We do catch this C2 trying to depart. He does not have his shields charged. This won't actually make much of a difference in the outcome for this guy. It's just going to buy him a couple more minutes to call for backup if he did have his shields fully charged. So we do have the quantum dampener active, so he cannot escape, and we're just going to start trying to disable the ship at best case, and then worst case soft death him. I wasn't able to do enough distortion damage between the EMP and the distortion weapons to fully disable this guy's ship. So at this point, he has a red hull. He's decided to hop in the aft turret control seat at a last chance to try and defend his ship, but it's not going to be enough for him, and we're just going to get the soft death on this guy. I did scan this guy's ship, and he does have 64 SCU of SLAM in the cargo hold, so I'm hitting up my guys in voice chat, and we're bringing the M2 over, and we're going to take this guy's loot. A quick note for PvE, the EMP is very strong in PvE. In this fight here against a Hammerhead, I take off the rear shields with the laser weapons, and then I hit the Hammerhead in the back with the EMP, which completely drops the shields on it. So it does have some value in PvE. I think ships like the Corsair or the F8 Lightning that have significantly more pilot firepower are superior choices for PvE. The final verdict is that the solo Antares performs very well in the PU. It is very capable at catching, halting, and disabling larger ships, either for bounty hunting or pirating. This ship can hold its own in a dogfight. Best case you win, worst case you just disengage. Remember that this ship is classified as an interdictor, not a fighter. The EMP and QED add a lot of value when operated by the single pilot. However, the total value added per player with 2 players is very low and not worth it. Using a virtual Star Citizen client with an alt account to control the Antares is cool, but it only brings the Antares up to par with the Cutlass Blue. Overall, I don't think the setup is worth it, but it was cool to experiment with.